All right. Because today is a Sunday, and I understand it's a Sunday, so I really appreciate everybody logging on who is here. So we'll go ahead and get started and be respectful of everybody's time because of that. So we have, for those of you who are joining us, we're going to start off with baseball, kicking it off with baseball right now. And then at noon, we're going to turn it over to Ryan for softball. But for right now, we're going to start and again, if you're logging on, this is being recorded. So if you want to leave your cameras on, that's fine. If you want to turn the cameras off, that's fine too. I have everyone muted for right now. If you need to ask a question, go ahead and unmute yourself. And then I just ask that you mute your microphone again so we can limit the background noise interruption. I think we are hopefully all getting used to that. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So for right now, though, I want to turn it over to Gary and Bob, two probably the hardest working people right now this year. And Gary, I know you might have to log off a little early, and so I want to give you an opportunity to share any announcements that you have with the membership.
All right. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the time, guys. Do you have me? Can you hear me?
You sound good.
All right, great. I'm driving, so if it gets a little static, I'm sorry. I'll mute as soon as I'm done. But not sure Bob's on yet, but I'm sure he's going to ditto pretty much everything I'm going to say as far as if you're a basketball official and you wanted to work last year, you pretty much could work however many games you wanted. I am looking at that carrying on to this springtime, baseball and softball. Um, I'm not sure about Bob, but I know I'm way behind schedule. Basketball just ate me up for the last 3-4 weeks. So normally would have gotten my spring schedules completed and be sitting back for a week or two right now. But unfortunately, that's not the case we're in. So, and that along with the lack of umpires this year, again, we're probably, I don't know, as many as basketball being down or not working because of COVID, which I totally understand. We're still going to be down quite a few. Um, I'm running a program that to try and recruit new umpires, baseball and softball. That if somebody knows of somebody that wants to work and can work games I assign, if they work 5 games, I'll send you $10. If you give me five new umpires and they all work 5 games, I'll send you $50. Um, we're trying to do something new to recruit. It's on my end. Um, with the lack of being able to run camps because of COVID, the lack of a lot of summer ball because between COVID, we've lost a lot more umpires than we've gained. Um, Again, I don't know if this will work, but hopefully it does. If you do have somebody that wants to work, you can email me. They can email me. You can call me, whatever. Just make sure if you have them call me, they tell me who refers them because it's only for the first person to refer. Um, if John Doe calls me up and says Jane Doe referred me, well, if somebody else calls up later, it's only gonna who was the first call. So um, I don't know if it's gonna work, guys and gals, but got to try something different to try and get some new recruits in here. Shane, I don't know if you've got any if your organization has any more freebies left for new officials for the MHSA vouchers. I'm out. Um, if you do, happy. I'm sending new officials both to the organization, so hopefully we get some new ones out of that as well. Um, I don't want to take up much more of your time. Again, I'm driving this morning, so I appreciate you just giving me a few minutes. I am going to keep listening in. If anybody's got any questions for me, please let me know. As I said, I'm way behind for spring sports, hoping to catch up soon. So that's really about what I've got to say. You don't need to hear the keep your arbiters up to date and all that stuff anymore. So
You would hope
any,
so.
I would hope so. But again, hopefully we can all work together and try and recruit some new officials, not just for baseball and softball, but for any sports. We need to trying to think outside of the box, and that's not my forte in a lot of areas. So hopefully we can get your help.
All right.
Hey,
Thanks, Gary.
Shane,
Yeah, go ahead.
Shane, Gary, this is Abasi Sanders. And for all the coordinators, this would be my second year doing softball and my first year for baseball, but I am retired from the civilian workforce, so I am available.
Okay, great. Can you just shoot me an email? Again, like I said, I'm driving right now, so I cannot write anything down.
Okay.
My email for everybody is gwags70, so at gmail.com. Shoot me an email. I'll get you set up. Shane, if you can get that posted, I'd appreciate it. I think it is on your website, but
Yep. gwag70@gmail.com. I just entered it into the chat box, and it is on our website under the assigners tab.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Good to go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions specifically for Gary, I'm going to kick it over to Bob Check right now. And Bob, go ahead and unmute yourself, and feel free to add in any other additional announcements.
Okay, Shane, can you hear me?
You sound good.
Okay, I don't have much to add other than I'm behind too. So what else is new? All I can tell you is just keep your Arbor up to date. We'll keep you busy if you want to work. So for those of you who get games, if it says it's a single and you get there and they play a double, just work it. Then call me and let me know, and I'll make sure I add the extra game so you can get paid. Or if you're working a game and for some reason your partner doesn't show up, make sure you call me and let me know so I can change the pay rate so you get paid appropriately. I'm just thinking out of the box. There's going to probably be a few games here and there where guys wind up working by themselves. It's just going to happen. So if you do, just do the best you can and let me know that night or the next day, and I'll go in there and change it so you get paid appropriately. I know it's going to happen. There's going to be a million changes. Guys can't get out of work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll just do the best we can. If you do get games in Arbiter, please don't sit on them. If you don't, either accept them or decline them or try to make a decision within 24 hours because it's going to be challenging, but we'll just do the best we can. I mean, that's about all we can do. So if anybody has any questions, feel free. Otherwise, I'll be sticking around for the whole meeting. Thank you.
All right. Before we transition, any questions for Bob or Gary at the moment? Nope. Okay. Seeing none, real quick. If you worked football or basketball and you already were a member of the MDAO and had already turned in some dues for this year, you are covered for baseball, softball. Our fee is a flat fee for 1, 2, or 3 or 4 sports. So by attending some meetings, and as soon as we get a couple of meetings in, we'll be updating our MIGs. And other than that, if you need to submit, membership dues and updates for the MDAO for baseball, softball, that information is on our website. And again, our website, as a reminder, is MetroDetroitAthleticOfficials.com. It's long, but it's easy to remember. It's just our association's name.com. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. And Paul, let me know if you can't share your screen, and I will give you the opportunity to do so.
Where's it coming from?
Let's see. One participant can share screen. Let's see. If you go down to the bottom, hopefully you should see, and like you hover your cursor on the bottom, you should see a share screen option. It'd be along the lines of there.
Can you see it?
Yep, it's popping up. There you go. Take it away.
Okay, everybody. We've got a lot to cover, and I only have a half an hour. So welcome to the 2021 baseball season. I don't do this for a living, so if I go too fast or I miss something or I get it wrong, please somebody stop me. But I'm going to go kind of fast through some of the beginning stuff. Here's some of the permitted permissions. You can wear gloves if you want. You can wear a face shield if you want. You don't have to, though. When you're actively umpiring, you do not have to have a mask or a shield. If you have to converse with someone, you need to have a mask. So have something in your back pocket. I have my gaiter. I wore my gaiter yesterday, so it worked out. It's cold in Michigan, so it'll keep you a little bit warmer, hopefully. Some suggested stuff. You're supposed to take your temperature on game day. If you're sick, don't show up. Bring your own beverages. It's baseball, so probably you're not going to get anything anyways, but bring your own beverages if you're worried about being thirsty or if it's a double header. Try and wash your hands and sanitize them as frequently as you possibly can. Don't share a uniform or a towel or equipment with anyone. What happened yesterday for me? The catcher took off for first base on a grounder. Normally I come back and I pick the mask up and I tell him, good hustle and stuff. Well, I told him I'm not touching the masks. I'm not touching the balls either this year. So hopefully someone on the sideline, or not hopefully, someone, if you're not going to touch the balls, someone from the home team should have balls and they'll throw it into the catcher. It worked out pretty well for me yesterday. I don't know if anybody else had any issues, but if you did, speak up and let us know. Again, sanitize if you can throughout the contest, especially if you're going to handle the baseballs. Mandated stuff. Okay, officials arrive at the site at a single location at the same time. Okay, that's not going to happen. But hopefully we're going to meet in the parking lot and be at the game site at the same time. I understand it's 4:00 starts and they're tough and everybody has to work. So do the best you can, get there when you can, and make sure everything works out. When you do the pregame, social distance, just the two coaches and the two umpires, or the two managers. No pregame or postgame handshakes, fist bumps, players, coaches, administrators. It's just over. Get to the car, go home. Stay safe, stay healthy. Try not to contact a player during a contest, especially if they're ill. If they're injured and you have to, but try not to. Officials should maintain okay, so if you do have to get together for a call, put your mask up and converse with your partner. We had one play yesterday where we had to do that. We both wore masks anyways. Like I said, I had my gator and he had a mask and we talked. It wasn't a big deal. What I say before the game to the coaches, it's a COVID year. We do the best we can. Things aren't going to be as smooth as they were in the past. It is just what it is. Okay, so when providing an explanation for a ruling to a head coach, a calling umpire will meet with the coach apart from others located at the nearest infield foul line. Well, remember, there's going to be some issues with this. The coaches cannot come on the field to argue a play. So you might want to remind them in the pregame conference, if you have a question, if you're on offense and you don't use you haven't used your offensive conference, you can talk to an umpire. If the conference is sustained, that's the state's wording, not mine. You cannot, you lose your conference. So if there's 2 outs and there's a play and the coach wants to talk about it, and that means he becomes the defensive team, he will use a defensive conference. So remind them of this. It's going to take a while before this works its way through and everybody gets it right. So it's a little crazy. Okay, so back to pregame conferences. Try and keep everybody about 6 feet apart from one another. Try and have a single lineup card. Didn't work out yesterday. We had 4 or 5 copies, but it is again, it's a COVID year. It is what it is. You get what you get, go with it. Electronically, it's probably not going to happen. It's recommended lineups be exchanged. Probably not going to happen. Okay, to baseballs. If you're going to carry them, the plate umpire may carry the baseballs in a traditional manner or may require the home team to maintain the supply of replacement baseballs. If the home team is responsible to maintain the supply, they will need to provide a new ball to the pitcher when requested. We have to have the NOXI stamp on it on the baseballs this year. So if it wears off, you can't use that baseball anymore. Do the best you can, of course. Hopefully you won't run out of baseballs, but we're supposed to be looking for the Noxie stamp on the baseballs. Do the best you can. Okay, if a player in possession of the ball is observed by the umpire going to his mouth or lips, the ball will be removed from play and it needs to be sanitized. If the player that goes to the mouth is the pitcher, a ball will be added to the count regardless of the position on the playing field. If there's a runner, it's a balk. It's not a ball, but it'll be a balk. I had one kid do that yesterday. Top of the third inning, he just got on the rubber and went to his mouth. So we had one ball started with. Again, all balls have to have the Noxie stamp. No balls with a Noxie stamp, no game. Hopefully there's some balls. Hopefully everyone has balls with Noxie stamps. Make sure you look at them before the game so we can at least get started. Any questions on that? I know I've gone really, really fast. So speak up if you do.
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Yes.
If my question has to concern with the visits. So there's 2 outs. There's a play at the third base, and the third out is called. The offensive team then becomes the defensive team. He comes out and has a question. The question is not sustained, so he's still out. So now that the team goes on the defense, so he's already had 1 mound visit for that subsequent inning.
Yes. So that would be his second trip. So if
So
he's
the
used one
first time he goes out,
and he questions you, that would make it the
pitcher's-
second trip. So he gets 3 free trips, correct?
the pitcher's gone at that point.
So yes, if it's the 4th trip, then yes, he has to remove the pitcher. So of course, remind him when he starts out, if you come out, that this will be your 4th trip. So he might.
Okay, but if it's the second trip, is that kind of the second trip per inning, and the pitcher has to?
No, there's 3 free trips a game. So you can use all 3
Okay,
trips.
gotcha. I'm
in
thinking
the
a different
second inning
level.
if you'd like.
Okay,
And remember, if you remove the pitcher from the game, it is not a trip. Okay. Okay, next thing is dugouts. The dugouts can be expanded into the outfield. Okay, back to players going to the mouth. Remember, the ball needs to be sanitized. I didn't do that yesterday. I forgot about it. I just called it a ball and we went. So the ball's supposed to be sanitized. I don't know how you'd sanitize it because I don't know what we're rubbing on the baseballs, but it's dirty enough as it is. And I highlighted this again. A pitcher that goes to his or her mouth in possession of the baseball anywhere on the field of play a ball will be added to the count. If there's a runner on base, it's a balk. So hopefully you won't have that. Make sure the coaches know this too. We had a little wet towel behind pitcher's mound, normally where we'd have a rosin bag. We had a wet towel, and they would go back every so often and wet their fingers. So questions on that one? That's pretty straightforward, I think. Okay, so back to coaches disputing plays. If the head coach wishes to question or dispute a play or request an umpire seek help on a call or ruling, the coach may do so under the following conditions. The coach must have an available conference, offensive conferences while on offense or a defensive conference while on defense. If the play ends a half inning, the conference that will be affected is determined by whether the coach's team will be on offense or defense the following half inning. So what we were just going through. So if you're on offense and there's a third out at third base and a coach wants to talk about it, it's actually a conference for the next half inning unless the coach is right or the call gets overturned. And of course, here's the fun stuff. The coach must approach the foul line in a calm manner to make a request of the calling umpire. So your definition of a calm manner and his definition of a calm manner will probably at that point be different. So don't be surprised. An umpire may choose not to have a discussion with the coach at the foul line, in which case the coach must return to his position. So you don't have to talk to the coach. I would suggest you talk to the coach at least a little bit. You don't have to charge him a conference, but you might want to just make sure he's at least been heard. They really, really want to be heard. So if the call is overturned, the affected conference will be retained. If the call is sustained, again, the state's word, the affected conference will be lost. Okay, so if you say, coach, we're not going to discuss this, and he continues onto the field, you warn him. If he continues on, if the coach persists after being warned, you may have to eject him. So hopefully that's the last thing we do. So make sure we put the stop sign up, right? Try and give him a stop sign. Hopefully it'll click in. Hey man, it's a COVID year. You can't come out here. Try anything you can to get it to a point where it's not an explosion. Okay, next, face mask for baseball. Everyone is required to wear a face mask when not in active participation, such as in the dugout, in a discussion or huddle with the team, or at any other time they are unable to maintain 6 feet of distance consistently. So do the best you can. I don't even remember looking in the dugout yesterday, so probably going to have to start to get used to it. But nobody was giving me a hard time, so if someone was giving me a hard time, I might look in the dugout and notice someone that doesn't have their mask on. But other than that, I probably won't. Again, do what you have to do. Keep everybody healthy, keep everybody safe. We've lost over 100 teams for the basketball tournament. We don't want to do that for baseball. Okay, so players, coaches, and umpires on the field of play are not required to wear face masks during active participation, since they can maintain 6 feet of distance from others except for fleeting moments. If the coach is permitted a discussion with an umpire, both must wear masks when the discussion takes place with less than 6 feet of distance from one another. Do the best you can. Any questions on this? Okay, so again, if you're umpiring, you don't have to have the mask on. I had my gaiter on. I didn't have a problem. It gets a little dry, but I was warmer. Okay, rules changes. 2020 and 2021 rules changes are the same. The designated hitter can be used in 2 ways. The DH, let me make sure I can get to this. Okay, the DH can be listed as the 10th starter replacing one of the other 9 players when it is their turn to bat. So that's the traditional designated hitter we've had for years. The other method is that any one of the starting defensive players can be their own DH, in effect having 2 positions within the confines of the rule requirements. Okay, so that's the new rule that they've put in college, and I don't know the college rule at all, but I know what we have, and I have a bunch of situations. Hopefully, it will clear up some of the questions. Okay, so first situation, the home coach is using Jones as a player DH. In the second inning, Jones comes to bat and hits a clean double. With Jones on second base, the coach goes to the plate umpire and requests that a courtesy runner run for Jones. Okay, so that's situation 1. So the ruling, a courtesy runner for Jones is not allowed. When his team is on defense, Jones is a pitcher. When Jones is a bat, he is batting as a designated hitter, not as a pitcher. Courtesy runner is not allowed for a DH. Okay, situation 2. Jones is listed as a player DH and comes to bat in the 3rd inning. Jones hits a double and while sliding into second base, sprains his ankle and cannot continue. The coach puts Williams in to run for Jones. This is legal. You can substitute for anyone. The impact of Williams running for Jones is that the role of the DH is now ended for the game. Since Jones is no longer the DH, and he and Williams cannot occupy a spot in the lineup at the same time, Jones is considered to have been removed from the game for his first time. So, of course, all starters have re-entry rules, right? So I'll save my comments for later on here. So let's go to situation 3. Jones is listed as a player DH. Having pitched the first 2 innings, he comes to bat in the 3rd inning and hits a double. With Jones on second base, the coach tells the umpire that he wants to end the role of the DH for Jones. He is ending the use of the DH for the game, making Jones only eligible to be the pitcher. The coach now wants to use a courtesy runner for Jones. Well, this is going to be okay. This is legal. The coach may end the role of the DH, leaving the previous player DH as only a defensive player. As Jones was the pitcher of record, having pitched the last half inning, he is eligible for a courtesy runner. So remember, there's no future courtesy runner changes. So I know the kid might pitch the next inning, but he cannot be courtesy runner until he actually becomes the pitcher. Okay. Any questions? Situation 4. Jones is a player DH, grows tired in the 5th inning, and is replaced as the pitcher by Coleman. Jones remains the DH. In the 6th inning, Jones is hit by a pitch in the helmet, and the medical staff will not allow him to continue in the game. The coach puts Smith in to run for Jones at first base, or B, Coleman runs for Jones. Okay, both actions are legal. So if we pinch run for Jones, which is what letter A is, the role of DH will be ended for the game, as Smith is an offensive substitute for Jones. Additionally, Coleman will be out of the game since Smith now occupies his spot in the batting order. So if you have a player DH and you have someone going in to play defense for that player, and then the player is substituted on offense, the role of the DH is done, and the person that is also with the player and the player's out of the game, and the person that was DH for is out of the game, unless the defensive guy goes in and becomes the new offensive guy too. So if we go back to our play, so Coleman will replace Jones and then the second part is Coleman comes in to run for Jones. So in B, the role of the DH is also ended. Coleman does remain in the game as a pitcher and will hit for himself in later at bats. This is probably what we're going to see more of. So, but here it is all together. So if someone comes in to run for the offensive player, the DH part of the player DH, the whole role of the DH is done for the game. Remember, this doesn't affect the traditional DH. This just reflects this player DH, this new role. So, but if the defensive guy comes in and runs, he is not out of the game. If he does not come in to take the offensive player's position, he's done for the game because he is not a starter. So that's 4. So 5. Any questions on that one? Everybody okay with it so far? Okay, well, we got 10 more minutes here. We got a whole bunch more plays. So Brady is a pitcher DH and tires in the 2nd inning. The coach brings Kelly in to pitch in the 2nd inning. In the 4th inning, Evans replaces Kelly. So the defensive person was substituted for. In the 5th inning, Brown replaces Evans as the pitcher. So again, the defense has been changed. In the 7th inning, Brady returns to play first base. So, okay. Of course, all the substitutions are legal, with Brady remaining the DH in each instance. Brown will now be out of the game while Brady returns. The pitcher DH is not locked into a defensive position and may be moved defensively while being locked into the batting order. So when the player came in to play defense, that eliminates the the DH for the rest of the game also. Okay. So situation 6. Smith is listed as a second baseman and DH in the lineup. In the 6th inning, the coach wants Smith to play right field while remaining as the DH. So another easy one. This is a legal defensive change. The player DH may move positions defensively while remaining the DH. Smith would now be the right fielder DH. Situation 7. Does a player DH have a re-entry as a defensive player and also a re-entry as the DH? So, no. Any of the starting players may be removed from the game and re-entered once. So, you get one re-entry. The player may not be removed as a defensive player and removed later as a DH and re-enter twice in both capacities. He only has one re-entry. Okay, so situation 8. The visiting team coach has a lineup utilizing the standard DH option, 10 starters, one being the DH for the defensive player. In the 3rd inning, the coach realizes he wanted to use the player DH option and not the standard DH. He asks the plate umpire if he may change the option since the DH has yet to bat. So in order to avoid stuff like this, when you're looking at the card in the pregame conference, make sure you ask the coach which DH he's using if he's going to use one. So the technical terms here. No, he may not change his lineup card. Once a coach has his lineup accepted by the plate umpire, he may not change from one DH option to the other. Okay, 9. The home team is using the player DH option while the visiting team is using the standard DH option for 10 starters. At the pregame conference, the home team coach insists that the visiting team must use the same DH option that he is using. So I think this is pretty obvious. The use of the DH is not mandatory, and each team may decide independently if it will play the game with a straight 9 lineup, use the standard DH option, or use the player DH option. Teams do not have to use the same method. So everybody gets their own choice of what DH they're using or want to use. Okay, situation 10. The home team is using Jones as a player DH option. In the 5th inning with a DH going 0 for 3 at bat, the coach wishes to use a pinch hitter for Jones. He tells the plate umpire that Smith will bat with the DH for the DH, with Jones returning as DH later in the game. So we know that's not going to really go over real well. So the coach may use a pinch hitter for a player DH, but when he does, the role of the DH will be ended for the game. Jones may return later, but when he does, it will be as a defensive player who will bat for himself. Okay, so what the coach wants to do is make a substitution and try and keep his DH in. So remember, if you're using player DH and you substitute for the player who's the offensive guy, the DH role is done, and the defensive guy is also out of the game. So make sure the coach knows when he does this that the other guy is going to be out of the game. So just try to avoid some of those situations. Any questions on that one? Okay, situation 11. Kelly is the left fielder DH. In the 3rd inning, Jones substitutes for Kelly as the left fielder. In the 4th inning, Kelly returns as a left fielder. In the 5th inning, Armstrong substitutes for Kelly in left field. Make Kelly remain as the DH. So I think we know the answers to these now. So no, Kelly, having been removed from the game twice, is no longer eligible to play in any capacity. The role of DH has ended since Armstrong now must bat for himself. All right. So situation 12. At the plate conference, the home team head coach provides to the plate umpire 3 baseballs. The plate umpire notices that while the baseballs have the Lord, I'll give up on that. They do not have the NOCSY mark. So the game shall be played, but the plate umpire shall provide a report to the state. So make sure you have your stamps on your balls. You got to have both marks. They come off the balls real easy. So do the best you can. Make sure we have legal baseballs. Okay, situation 13. The coach knows that his catcher is wearing a body protector under his jersey that is certified by NOCSY and has the NOCSY stamp. At the plate conference, the coach affirms that all his players are properly equipped in accordance with the NFHS rules. In the first inning, the plate umpire notices the catcher is not wearing a chest protector with the NOCSY stamp or mark. Okay, so the plate umpire shall accept the coach's verification that all his players are equipped in accordance with NFHS rules. Do not allow someone to play with something that they might get hurt with. So make sure the players cannot get hurt with something that's avoidable. So, but I don't know what else to say on that. So,
Hey, Paul,
yes.
can you go back to the baseball thing where you said that they didn't have the authenticated mark, but you said the game should be started anyway? It was my understanding that you can't start a game without baseballs that have the authenticating mark on them.
Okay, so this is off the NFHS. This is off the Federation website. So Michigan does say we have to have the mark. So make sure there's a mark. Make sure there's the NFHS authenticating mark on it. This is off the NFA. This is off the Federation website, so it's not as detailed as we are. But yes, have as much. Cover yourself as much as possible. Make sure all the marks are there. Do the best you can. Does that help? Does that answer?
Yes.
Okay, so we only got a couple minutes left, so I had a couple of fun plays at the end here. So I'll go down to the end. I will give this to Shane, and hopefully they will post it to the website, so we can. So if you want to read through it, but I have a couple fun plays. Hopefully I can get to them. Okay. So R1 is off and running on the pitch, but his helmet falls to the ground. So B1 hits the pitch toward the hole between first and second, and the ball strikes the helmet. So the first baseman is now unable to field the ball. So what do we have? So there's no intent here, right? The helmet came off. Ball strikes the helmet, remains in play. So when they start complaining about how it's not, that's not right, it should be interference. Well, if there's no intent, if the kid didn't throw the helmet at the ball, it's going to be okay. So remember, don't allow anyone to get away with something. This is just one of them unfortunate things. So the only other thing you could say is, if you hit a line drive and it hit the helmet and your first baseman caught it and then stepped on first base, that'd be a double play. So would you take it or would you not take it? So I know the answer to it. So just trying to get everybody's blood rolling toward baseball. My last one here. So runner at third and a runner at first when B1 attempts to bunt. The runner at first is off on the pitch with the runner at third holding. B1's bunt is a pop-up near home plate. As the catcher prepares to catch the ball, the batter bumps him. The umpire is certain that the catcher would have caught the ball and then thrown to first to double up R1. So this, again, what I always say, this is why we get paid the big bucks. So you can call the batter out. I would call the batter out for sure, and I would probably call the runner out too, because he would have been doubled up. And make sure the runner goes back to third. hopefully, again, like I always say, don't let anybody try and get away with anything. If they're trying to get away with something, I don't know if he is even in this case trying to, but he interfered with the catcher. So if you interfere with the catcher, catcher's probably looking up and the batter bumps him, so it's going to spin the catcher around.
Hey, Paul, I see one question in the comments section. I'm not sure if you addressed it from Tim. It says, to clarify situation 12, isn't Michigan's rules game can't start without the proper baseballs, but it sounds like you've addressed that.
Yes, we addressed that. So yes, make sure we have the marks on the ball. Make sure you have the marks on the ball best you can. So that takes me to 11:55, and I turn it back over to Shane. Do I have to do anything, Shane?
You can just at the bottom you can click end share of your screen, and you'll have that option there if you hover over it. So right now I want to give just a couple minutes as we transition from baseball to softball. If you are doing both baseball and softball, you can go ahead. I'll be logging in a few more people. Looks like most people are logged in. Does anybody have any final questions for Paul? Either type in the chat, go ahead, come off mute.
Before we get too far,
yeah.
If you call me and you don't leave me a message, I tend to not answer the phone because I get a lot of spam. And if I answer the phone and it's spam, I get 6 calls 10 minutes apart for the next hour. So please leave a message or text me, and that would be fine.
Yeah. Paul, do you want me to type your cell phone into the chat, or do you want to give that to people? Or
sure, go ahead. Do you have it, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, just state it, and that'll help me out. Yeah, and then so Paul just put his cell phone into the chat. For those of you who are maybe watching this, it's 313-310-1177. That's 313-310-1177. Okay, so I don't see anybody else logging on. Well, I see, okay, one here. So we are going to be transitioning now over to softball. If there are not any other questions for Paul, I'm just not going to be in a hurry.